Welcome back to a new video. Now, as you don't see, the blocks are not currently out, but that is the plan today. So I figured I would talk about what my goals are for this session as I'm getting the blocks out. So if you can't really see, well, I guess you can see the corner of it, so I'm looking at the camera. I keep the blocks stored here, and the only wood block that I don't have in here are the larger, I think they're 18-inch. But they're too beat up, and they're also too large, as I almost trip on a 5-kilo plate. They're too large, and what I find is that if I just keep these ones in here, I can do the high block work, which is what I use them for mostly, and I don't have to worry about just navigating around that giant other one. Because the only benefit of the other one is it's only one block to move for the high block work, but as you can see, if I put the 12 and the topper on, then I'm able to get a sufficient height that's good for block work. And I think it's pretty close to I think it's 18. I forget what the other one is, but I keep getting like a weird twinge in my hip. I'm not sure what that is, but hasn't really been bothering me when I actually train, just moving around sometimes. So who knows, but we get these bad boys out. But the goal, kind of pulling this more than I would. I would normally take this topper off, but I'm trying to see if I can just yank it into the area where I need it, so I don't have to pick it up. But I would like to do a heavy block snatch today, and that's kind of the goal. So I don't think I'm going to do the powers. I'm just going to work up on singles, because I missed 125 the first 2 weeks, so I would like to be able to hit that today, if that's possible. A lot of that will be dependent on how I feel, you know, when I come out, or when I start training. I'm obviously already out here. It would probably have been easier just to pull them apart, but I never claimed to be smart. And then for clean and jerks, I would say if I did the 130 again, that'd be fine. So I most likely won't try to do powers for either one. After them, because I did pulling stuff yesterday, in theory, I would do some squats. I don't know what the squats will look like in a perfect world. So I guess I'll go over what the perfect workout would be and then what I'm satisfied with. So get up to 125 in the block snatch, then get up to 130. I would say perfect. I'm getting up to 140 in the block clean and jerk. Then I do the 5x3 at 165 because I did 160 on Saturday. And then I'm out of here. I don't really think, if I do all that, I definitely don't think I would need to do any accessory work. If I don't, then potentially, but I think I will get pretty close with the snatch, pretty close with the clean and jerk. I definitely think, you know, I've done 140 a bunch of times from the high blocks. I'm not too worried about that, but obviously, you know, it has to feel good as far as like wrist and just the movement in general. And the squats, like that's also dependent is, you know, how the first two lifts go as far as, you know, physically how I feel. And that being the kind of the big indicator, because I think the 5x3 that I did at 160 was the first one that I was like, these are actually really difficult, or at least like I had to really try, and I wasn't able to do them as quick. So if I'm working at those and they start to get slow, then I don't envision I would drop down, but I would definitely keep it around there. And I don't envision doing 170. I think that'd be too big of a jump. But if I can do, you know, even if I repeated 160, I think that would still be really productive. But I think I would like to do 165 and just hit those triples and just try to make it move faster than the 160s did. And then with more weight, obviously that's good. Plus doing the work beforehand. Although when I did the 160s, I was obviously after doing, you know, the heavy snatch and clean jerk. So that's not, I don't think, out of the realm of possibility. But I don't know if I've mentioned why I put these rubber mats on. So these are extra pieces on the from the flooring that when I installed everything. And normally I just store them back behind here. And it kind of extends the platform in a logical way. Since the actual stall mat only went to about where my foot is, or like to this back part. And I wanted it to extend forward, so then the squat rack has, you know, I'm not messing with the divot there. Because back here, like, all that's happening is a weight's rolling back, or a weight's being stored here. And if I have the rubber mat back here, it extends all the way to the end of the platform, which is nice. So it's doubly nice, because then I can throw them up on the platform and drop them back off. But the reason that I want them up here is it gets the barbell in a slightly better position for the high block work, or at least doesn't put it into a bad position, because, you know, it's a thick stall mat, but it's not like, you know, 8 inches thick or something where, you know, it really like change the actual lift. That so it makes the block lift just a little bit, you know, to the correct height, or at least it keeps it at a correct height. But it also, of course, protects the top topper of this. That's potentially, there's a lot of stuff that I have going on in the summer, so I don't envision I'll actually get with this. But maybe a long-term project is redoing the topper, because it doesn't look like it would be that difficult to remake. But honestly, with this stall mat on top, I don't really envision that being a huge priority, because this does a good job of protecting the topper. Now, theoretically, they were designed to have some wear and tear on them, or at least like catch the weights on them. But the way that Titan designed these are certainly not good. So they eventually have broken down all the, without the toppers on them, the blocks break down pretty quick. And that's why, big reason I took the giant ones out is they were starting to break, and I had to put a piece of wood on it because they were cracking so much, because I'd used them so much and lifted so much weight with them. But they aren't designed well for long-term use, which, you know, it's one of the things when you buy cheaper stuff, you kind of have to deal with that. But this is from back when my buddy and I had a gym when we had these. So this was a purchase from that business that we tried to run back in the day. So they've held up quite well. I mean, this was back in, I don't know. I mean, these were like 6 years old, I would think, maybe even older. I forget exactly when we had all that and when I brought them up. I suppose I could probably look back and figure that out, but they filled up decent enough. And, you know, they're wood blocks, so they're just pieces of wood. So, I mean, if they break down, then you can replace parts pretty easy or reinforce it. But with the structure that I have now, I think they're good enough for my purposes. Plus with the stall mats, that kind of makes it a crash pad for it, or at least absorbs a lot of the brunt of the force for the most part. I'm sure eventually they'll break down, but not today, hopefully. But yeah, so that's the goal, 125. Let's say 140. I'm not sure how clean and jerks will feel. And then some sort of 5x3 squats. I continue to really like the 5x3 back squats as far as just trying to get the reps to be faster for the sets. I think it's just a good goal to have, and it's keeping the weights lower. And then potentially, not today, but potentially on a different day, doing like a 3x3 and then increasing like I did up to 210 the last week. So hopefully a pretty good day. It's really warm out. It's in the mid 70s. So it is beautiful. It's like past 7, so it's a little bit later, but it hasn't cooled down at all. Neighbors' dogs are not happy that I'm out here, but thankfully I'm well protected and insulated in here. I still put up the blanket just because it kind of just hangs down. Once it's actually warm for like, you know, summer or spring, and it's not going to cool back down, because I know tomorrow it's going to get back in the 50s, I'll just take that down and store it. But as far as, you know, what I have now, I might as well throw it up there. Actually, we'll probably get really warm in here, which will just be nice for training in general. You'd rather it be a little too hot than too cold, of course. And thankfully, the circulation, even with that mat up, is still really good as far as airflow in here. So it's not like it really insulates terribly well, but it does good enough. And it's just it's a sleeping bag that I that I nailed up there. It's good enough for the home gym, but let's get working. I'm going to throw the shoes on and start warming up. And then I guess the first set you'll see will be 40 kilos. But hopefully, you know, I get up to that 125, and hopefully it's smooth sailing from there. But we'll see how it goes. You know, yesterday was a good day of training, and I lifted better than the previous week. So hopefully that trend continues, you know, not just today, but with all of them. And yeah, we'll just get it training. But I'll talk to you at the end of the video, and hopefully only good things to say. But talk to you all then. definitely a set. I'm going to have some flushing of blood, or I don't really know what to describe it, but like I get a bunch of like red marks on my skin. It's not really like crazy noticeable. It almost kind of looks like a little bit of a sunburn. It's mostly noticeable. I mean, it can be really bad on my chest and obviously in my traps where the bar was, but I'll notice it on my face, but specifically my forehead, because that set was definitely hard. Reason I went to that, well, let's start at the beginning of this workout. So snatches were feeling pretty good. They weren't feeling like 100% crispy. I'm going to hit, 150 kilos today, but I was pretty confident. Then I missed the 110 behind and I just over pulled that one. I got up to 120 and just did the same thing with that, but then the second rep was just so much better. And I probably looked visibly frustrated after because like the second rep felt so easy. And then 125, I was just banging my head against it, trying to get it. And I'm just not fast enough right now. And a big reason of that is just, the general fatigue that's been built up. I think as I get more volume in that specific movement, then that number, I mean, I've done it before. I've doubled 125 from the high blocks. So I know it's something I can get back to, but I have to kind of build up the volume from that movement. I think one time in these 3 weeks, I've done doubles and it was a power plus full. So when I reset, so after next week will be a deload, but that'll be a good time to actually do some reps from the high blocks and just reps in general because it'll be lighter. But when I reset, I want to push the doubles from the blocks. So I think if I remember correctly, for when I was hitting like my best snatches from the blocks and really just my best snatches in general, I was doing a lot of doubles. And when I was doing, how I mentioned with the full snatches, or snatches from the floor, doing power plus full, like I was doing doubles and powers plus fulls with everything. And from the blocks were no exception with that. So definitely want to be hitting more reps from there. I think that will certainly allow me to build up the necessary volume in the practice to get good at that. And of course, it will just be good for me to do because it will help me increase the speed under the bar, just in general, because I think it's a good movement for me to do. Block cleans and jerks went really well too. Cleans, I don't think they will ever feel good, but really the only thing I'm thinking about is just trying to finish in an exaggerated fashion because that's the only thing that makes my clean look somewhat normal from that position. And I just don't think it will ever be like a super crispy, good clean from the high blocks just because of the way I'm built. It's always going to be just uncomfortable as far as the positions. I just need shorter arms so I can pull for longer. But of course, that would have down the line ramifications. I was happy I got up to 140. And I don't know if I mentioned it in yesterday's video, but I did the hold after the last rep of the jerk. So the 140, just standing up there and holding it. I don't plan on adding that in, but it's not going to hurt, to have that 140 above my head and just hold it and stabilize it. It's a lot easier to do it, of course, in the jerk than the snatch for like a longer duration of time for the most part, just because you're just stacked over your main part of your body naturally. And it's a little bit less strain on your wrist if you try to do that in the snatch, which I don't think it's necessarily bad to do, but it does, you are holding it in a more, like your wrist is in a more flex position in the snatch than in the jerk, at least I think so. It puts more strain on your wrist, at least in my experience, trying to do those. But it's after clean jerks, like I'm not worried about like fatiguing my shoulders for squats, of course. But so I was happy with clean jerks. Honestly happy that like my misses in the snatch from the blocks, I was able to come back and fix. And the ones I made, the 110 into 120, like they felt really good when I did them right. So I know it's more of just practice and volume. And then those numbers will be hopefully ones that I'm doubling for a routine basis, doubling 110 and 120, and then getting up to that 125. And hopefully, of course, more. But clean jerks, similar thing. I don't necessarily care about them because they're so difficult. But if I'm hitting 140 and I can make it look all right, then I'm happy with that. And of course, still wanting to go more than that if it's possible. But today, the 140 was definitely a maximal lift with just what strength I had. But of course, 10 kilos more than what I did last week in this session. I hit the same numbers with the snatch, so that didn't increase. With the squat, I was originally still going to hammer the 5x3, but then I realized the theme of this week is to push the intensity as aggressively as I can. So as you saw, I still did triples, or I still did a top set triple with the 200, which is not a PR. I don't know what honestly, I think 205 might be my best triple. It's definitely up there, and without a belt, it's, you know, it's, if I'm hitting 200 for a triple, it's definitely, legs are strong, of course. But my thought was to potentially have today be some sort of aggressive triple, and then to have the next day I squat be like just push a heavier single, and then have that be like the end of the cycle of squats for that. Since today's Monday, so that would be Wednesday, so then that would give me enough time to recover for a Saturday session. So theoretically, Wednesday of this third week will be the heaviest squat of the cycle. I would say at between 215 and 220, but that will really just be dependent on the day and how I'm moving. I'll definitely throw in the knee sleeves and the belt for that, and try to get a little hyped up, because last week I did 210, and obviously, you know, doing this for, I don't want to say an easy triple, but for a triple when I did 210 last week is certainly moving in the right direction. So I'm quite happy with that. My hip, I don't even know if it's like psoas or hip. It just feels weird. And I know it's probably something from before when I had the injury, but it's just like kind of twinges at different times. I don't feel it when I do any lift. And those are the most frustrating. And I would say those are probably like, I would say almost 90%, maybe even more of like the aches that I have. It's just like walking around, I'm like, ooh, I have a twinge in my hip. But then I'll do a 200 triple and have no, just, you know, obviously like it's a strain, but I'm not like, ooh, I feel a twinge with, you know, 200 kilos on my back. Like I feel only the strain of the weight. And it's a weird, it's annoying, but I just know that it's not like I'm not hurt, obviously, if I'm able to do all this, and then like I'm standing here after and I'm not like flared up after and like, you know, limping or something. So it's just something that I just need to do some mobility, of course, and massage in that area, and, you know, let it chill out a little bit if possible. But it's, I don't know, it's just one of those things that just happens with lifting. But definitely happy to get the 200. And really this, I mean, overall the session I'm happy about. Obviously, you know, hitting the 125 would have been the icing on the cake, but that's just not always the case. And I'm glad over the years that I've gotten more mature in terms of, if I don't hit the snatch that I want on a particular day, I don't let that necessarily, obviously it's going to impact the rest of your training because you're annoyed by it. But I had so many sessions in the past where like I would snatch poorly, and then I would say, well, I feel bad today, I'm just going to not do any training, which honestly, for how much training I do, it's not always, it honestly probably was a net positive thing, but it's not a positive mindset to have. Like it's okay to not hit a number in the snatch, but to still push hard, you know, in two other exercises, and have that be, you know, an overall good session. And, you know, doing triples in the squat is interesting because it just always makes every session, if you're doing reps, it just makes every session feel productive, which is, I don't know how to describe that feeling, but it just feels like you did enough work if you're doing reps, especially when I do the 5x3. Like today, you know, was quicker in that sense. And another reason, besides all that, from a practical standpoint, that I just wanted to do the one heavy triple is I just want to get in and eat some food. It's a little after 9. It's like probably going to be about 9:20 when I get in the house. So I don't want to be out here for, you know, another 30 minutes trying to do a 5x3 and fight with 165 or whatever. So just went up to the 200 for the triple. Very happy about that. Just happy about training in general. Like every day seems to be like there's always more that I want. And I think that's also a positive thing, is that I'm feeling excited about training, confident about it, and like I want to do, like I know, like I want to do block snatches again tomorrow because I know I can do 125. Obviously, I'm not going to, because I'm going to do probably snatch balances and stuff. But like I like having that mindset, because it's like I got more, I can do it. I just have to, you know, get more practice or do more reps with it or whatever. And it's nice to be confident enough for that. And even if I am missing 125, you know, couple weeks in a row, it's nice to be like, I can, you know, to want to try it 3 times. It's not often that you have that with maximal weights. So I know that there's, you know, a surplus of strength there, and hopefully as I dissipate the fatigue next week, then that bodes well for some heavy singles at the end of that week. The next time I do block snatches will be in the week 4, so I most likely won't, well, if I'm smart, and you guys can call me out if I'm being an idiot about it, but I shouldn't go heavy on anything during the week because it's supposed to be a deload. and then have the heavy max out day at the end of that 4 week, and then repeat the block. And then when that block resets to, again, in the first week, just hammering the volume and just trying to build the base and, continue the momentum from these weeks of training, and just continue to have that end of the 4 weeks be that big, cowabunga day where I just, hammer everything and everything goes well. So I think for this week, I have no idea what the heavy day will look like. So I don't want to put any sort of number on that because, obviously, like, I'm going to be fatigued. So if I do 110 and 140 this Saturday, then I think that would be sufficient, and it'd be good for how much work I'm doing. But after the deload next week, I would like, if I'm doing kind of a mock competition, but just like a max out day, like 115 be the first attempt, 120, and then 125, and hopefully, obviously, no misses, good reps, all that good stuff. And then for the clean and jerk, most likely, probably, I think if I'm being smart, probably 145, 150, and then try something like 155. Because even if I'm not hitting those numbers, then it will be good to the fact that I'm just like with the block snatch, like I'm confident enough to hit those. So then I have something to shoot for the next week. So then as I'm building, into the springtime, then I'm attacking those numbers that I want to be my first and second attempt, and I'm doing it in a more controlled fashion. Because I think a lot of times when I go to my own training, it's just on a random Wednesday. I'm like, let's hit a big total today, and sometimes it goes great, and sometimes it goes bad, but it's not as consistent because it's not as measurable, and then I don't have that time to dial it back to try to fix things, to find different variations that might be helping. Because during the session when I was missing those block snatches, I'm thinking I need to do more hang snatches potentially, or maybe no foots. And you just kind of work backwards in your head about things that you need to fix. And it's not necessarily bad. I guess that's one thing why it's not bad to have a bunch of misses. I'm gonna look for my glasses. Or they're in my case over here. And it's one thing why it's not bad to have, misses in your training, because that kind of informs you of things you need to work on. And often, my things they're consistent of what I do consistently wrong, and building consistency is one of the big things that I need to do. But that's done through repetitions and stuff, and I think for the most part I've done a pretty good job, pushing my power snatch plus snatch up, and just power snatch in general without straps, and just training without straps a lot too. I think that's been a really positive thing as well. And hopefully I just continue this momentum this week and hit a good squat. If I hit 220, I think that'd be really good. And then in the next 4 week block, hopefully when I get to that third week, maybe do a little bit more, or even if I maintain it, then it's good, because I'll hopefully add some front squats in. That was the other thing I contemplated today, was making this front squat triples. But with my wrist just being not limiting me in training, but just something I don't want to become a limiter, it's something I'm being kind of overly cautious about, and just focusing on the back squat. And honestly, I get a pretty good stimulus from it, because I obviously use my whole body, and I get, a ton of work with my back, which is not the best, but it's just how I'm going to have to squat, because it's just how how I'm built. But I get a lot of work and a lot of carryover from the back squat. I remember having a prep where I hit 125, 162 at the competition. For the last couple weeks before the comp, I didn't do any front squats. I only did back squats, and I ended up, doing really well at the competition. So I think for me, it correlates pretty well. But front squats, of course, I do want to add in when it feels like it makes sense. But probably at the first, probably not next week, but maybe. And then definitely in the next 4 week block. But I've rambled on long enough. I'm sure now it's going to be like 9:30 when I get in there, but I need to get in, eat some food, and hit the hay. But 200 for 3, that's good. So I don't know if a triple heavier than that is going to be on the menu. Certainly not this week, but maybe in the next 4 week block if training continues to go well. But honestly, 200 for 3, that's definitely where I need to be if I want to be hitting the numbers that I want. And of course, the goal is always to get stronger. So if I can hit 205 again and 210 and even more for a triple, that's of course going to be even more better, which is the correct grammatical way to say that. But anywho, I'm rambling long enough. I need to go get some protein, go get some food, but I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great day.